Hey, how's it going guys? Welcome back for another card review. So, as you can see on the screen right now, we're gonna review a brand new card, which is Meruem, which is next week's Nightmare stage. Right, you heard that right? It is Nightmare stage, so Madhead is gonna pull another 七天对 version 2.0 on us. Right, so let's take a look at his skill and should we get him or not. Okay, first up, let's take a look at his leader skill. Right, so leader skill, you can see that is pretty much like a opposite of 8 Xian playstyle. Right, 8 Xian is strong against Elf and Demon, but Meruem here plays Elf and Demon in the team. Right, so if you have Elf and Demon in the team, the team only works if you have Elf and Demon in the team. Right, so the more, pretty much the more runestones you dissolve, the higher your team attack to the max of 7 times. Right, so it is unclear how many runes you need to dissolve for times 7. Right, they didn't specify. Right, so basically, the more runestones you dissolve, right, the higher the multiplier to the max times 7. So we're to the max having a times 7 times 7 kind of multiplier right here. Right, so I find this kind of multiplier is pretty okay. Right, what I mean is that you can actually control your damage output really well. Right, if you don't really want a very high damage burst, right, like you want to store CD or whatsoever, can just dissolve a set of 3 runestones, and that's gonna give you a very minimal multiplier. Right, you want to burst, dissolve as many runestones as you can, right, and then you get that times 7 multiplier there. Right, so overall, this leader skill here is pretty well made. Right, just that you have to play Demon and Elf. Right, these two race here is notorious for its low HP. Right, so we need something to counter that. Right, so we'll look into that later. Right, so let's move on to the next one. Right, next we're gonna talk about his Nan skill as well. Right, so Meruem, as if you set him as leader, he can actually activate his Nan power as well. Right, so his Nan is actually different from all the other cards that we have currently. Right, we can see Hisoka and Kurapika having the same Nan, Gon having his own unique Nan, and also Killua having his own unique one as well. Right, so this is a brand new Nan power. Right, upon activating, it depletes 50% of your Dragonary craft, and then what it does is it kind of revert mass bots as well as monochrome bots. Right, so if you guys are the kind that can't spin through mass runes or can't really see black and white runes, this Nan skill here is gonna help you out. Right, so I think most of the time players is gonna use this to counter mass bot, especially those permanent full mass bot kind of skill. Right, so that's gonna help us bring one less card. Right, usually we will try to bring maybe like Aloha to kind of review the bot by converting the whole bot. Right, or maybe bring like Egyptian gods to kind of dissolve away partial part of the bot, right, just to review more runes to us. Right, so by activating this Nan skill, right, you're just depleting your Dragonary craft, so you can actually bring one extra team member with you, right, for some certain stage. Right, so for this to happen, you need Meruem to be leader, of course, right, as I mentioned earlier. Right, so let's take a look at his team setup. Right, so what you can see here is basically like Meruem's passive, right, or team skill along with other cards in the Hunter series. Right, so what you can see here is all 3 bi-weekly, right, or 2 bi-weekly and 1 horror stage card actually. Right, so we have the fire one, which is the first one that we have encountered, right, following by Pito, the dark card, as well as Shaya Pov, which is coming out next week as well as a bi-weekly battle. Right, so each of them carries a different passive for Meruem, right, boosting the Meruem leader and ally. So in order to have this, okay, let's talk about it one by one. Right, so the fire one actually boosts the HP, so times 2, I think it's times 2, right, times 2 HP for the Meruem leader and ally. Right, of course the first 2 Meruem, so if you bring more than maybe you, for that one empty slot here, you put in another Meruem, right, you will only boost your leader and the 5th card, which is, and then the ally doesn't get any boost. Right, only 2 Meruem is applicable. Right, so the fire one boosts HP, right, HP times 2 for 2 Meruems. Pito right? The dark card is gonna boost attack, and then of course Shire Pov here is gonna boost ×2 recovery, right? So each of them carry a buff for Meruem, right, in which they are royal guards anyways, right? So after that leaves this team setup one final slot, right? So this is one of the things that I don't really like about this Meruem card, is that having 3 so-called bi-weekly cards in the team, you are left with one empty slot here, right, in which it's not really that much of a choice. You can only think of one card to slot in, right? So there is quite a pity there. Right, so having Earth, Fire, Dark and Light card in the team, right? So you can see here the last sentence in Chinese here is gonna say the team members, right, the colors that is in your team, right, carries 50% of effect of other attributes, right? So this means that Earth have 50% of other attributes, Fire have 50%, Dark have 50%, as well as Light have 50%, right? So if you want to complete the whole set, right, having all colors having 50% of all attributes, you will have to slot in a water card in this empty slot right here. Alright, so as I mentioned earlier, Demon and Elf doesn't really have much HP, right? So it's definitely a must to bring this fire card, right, to boost up its HP to normal range, I guess. Right, so this team here will pretty much suffer from rune drought, probably hard runes, right? So you can probably put in like Yuki Onna as the final slot here, right? So that's what I can think of for now. Of course, there will be better cards out there, right? If you want to go full offensive, probably slot in like a Shy Plant or something like that, right? But then water doesn't possess 50% effect of other attribute, right? But all the other color does, so I think if you're missing one color, it doesn't really matter, right? Just that all this is gonna be pretty much the default setup for Meruem if you're gonna, you know, kind of play him as a leader. Right, speaking about leader, right, what about him as a member, right? So let's take a look at his active skill. So last but not least, we'll take a look at his active skill. So he's at CD 5, so this is a very, very fast charging CD, right? So I assume that a lot of people is gonna farm him for this because his skill, right, being CD 5 is super OP, right? So let's take a look. So for one round, you're gonna reduce the enemy's attack by 50%. So it's kind of like a damage reduction kind of active skill here, right? So on top of that, whatever damage that you have minus, right? So 50% of the enemy's attack is gonna be add on to your own personal attack, right? So this is gonna be pretty OP, right? So of course this effect only lasts for one turn. So you can imagine if used at the correct situation, Meruem is gonna be super OP, right? So one example is having maybe like a mob that is gonna deal you 99999 damage kind of thing, right? So 50% of that is gonna be a lot of damage, right? So that's gonna add on to your own personal attack, and you're gonna dish out a heck ton of, you know, damage, right? So that's gonna be good for Meruem, right? So damage reduction there is gonna help for Demon team because of their paperish HP pool. Right, so on top of that, if you slot Meruem as a member, right, for other team, that's going to be very useful as well, right? Because you get the damage reduction and then you get his own personal buff as well, right? So this guy here is going to be perfect as a leader and a member, right? So I highly encourage you guys to farm Meruem, right? Provided his stage difficulty is not too sadistic, right? Because this is going to be Nightmare once again and not Ultimate stage, so you can expect difficulty to be something like Qitiandi previously from the Pili Puppet series. Right, so overall this is going to be my card review for this Hunter x Hunter Meruem. Right, so if you enjoyed this video, do give it a like, and then I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.